Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Spirit Alive and to this program, which I know from the many comments that I get at the Mother House and elsewhere, you are really enjoying this and finding it a beautiful, peaceful way to end your day. So we thank Sister Kathleen Duffy. Sister Kathy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm enjoying myself too, and that's always good. Even though I can't see you all, I just wish I could see you. But maybe someday we will get to that point. I just want to remind the readers to this evening, Maria Iannucci is going to read the first reading. They're long tonight, but I hope they're not too hard. And the second one is John Schaub. I hope you're both here. So when I call on you, you can unmute yourself and begin reading from the screen or from your paper. And then Elizabeth Hill will read the prayer from the screen. And then Joanne Forker will again read the chat. And so we begin. So our topic this evening is Sophia, Catalyst of Creative Union. So far during this week, these sessions, we've looked first at, focused first on Teilhard's experience of Christ incarnate in matter as the Divine Milieu, a milieu that brought him direction and challenge, solace and joy, and always zest for life. And then last week, we focused on Teilhard's image of the Sacred Heart, which transformed him into the cosmic Christ, an image of God that became universalized and personalized in a very dramatic reading of a very dramatic essay of Teilhard's. So this evening, we continue to explore Teilhard's cosmic images, but this time the image of Sophia found in his essay called The Eternal Feminine. For Teilhard, Sophia is the wisdom of God, the feminine presence of God in the world, or as the catalyst of creative union. In his essay, The Eternal Feminine, Teilhard gives Sophia a specifically cosmic role, allowing us to imagine her at work in the world. But before we begin, I would like to share with you a few episodes from Teilhard's life that put his relationship with Sophia in context. At age 33, near the end of his formation period as a Jesuit, Teilhard met his cousin Marguerite, whom he had not seen since they were young children. And because of their shared interest in the spiritual, he fell in love with her and developed with her his first adult relationship with a woman. Soon after, he was conscripted into the French army and served as a stretcher bearer during most of World War I. He wrote to her often and shared with her all of his early essays, which are now compiled thanks to her in the volume called Writings in Time of War. During the war, as he was preparing to pronounce his final vows, he wrote the essay entitled The Eternal Feminine, and he dedicated it to his cousin, Marguerite. In this essay, he attempts to understand the power of the feminine in his own life by exploring the power of women such as Mary, the Mother of God, wisdom from the Old Testament, and Beatrice from Dante's Divine Comedy. The essay begins with a paraphrase of Proverbs 8, imaging Sophia wisdom as the feminine presence of the divine, at work and at play in the evolutionary story. Teilhard knew the power of the feminine in his life through his mother and sisters, his cousin, and the other women that he grew to love and who nurtured him in many ways. He tells us that he experienced no form of self-development without some feminine eye turned on him, without some feminine influence at work. His mystical essays do provide more feminine language for imaging God, yet he has not written much about wisdom, Sophia, in language as clear as in the Eternal Feminine, and at least not so clear as his writings on the Cosmic Christ. When Teilhard fell in love with his cousin Marguerite, he experienced a stark awakening to love. But instead of separating him from God, this experience opened the door of his heart so that divine love could enter. He began to encounter Sophia in the ordinariness of his life, as a numinous presence, as an aesthetic experience that tended to break up his autonomy and draw him out of himself. A tiny scrap of tangible reality would set his world on fire. Encounters as ordinary as a song, a sunbeam, a glance, engendered in him loving, breathing engagement with the divine. They pierced through the dark cloud like a ray of light. Sophia attempted to capture his attention by overwhelming him with the radiance of a glorious sunrise, by peering out at him from behind the stars, by caressing him with a gentle breeze, and by comforting him with loving human encounters. She would remind him, I am with you in the air that you breathe, in the light with which you see. A yearning to live filled his soul, and suddenly the world was full of God. Teilhard wanted to possess her and be possessed by her, but she would not be imprisoned. In a few minutes, we are going to listen to my adaptation of Teilhard's essay, in which he attempts to situate Sophia, found in Proverbs 8, within the evolutionary cosmos. In this adaptation, I try to simplify some of Teilhard's language and to intersperse the story with updated scientific information. Hopefully, this portrayal of Sophia's feminine power provides another way for us to imagine and visualize God's continuous action in our world and our role in the cosmic becoming. In this first section, Sophia Holy Wisdom tells the story of creation from her point of view. She claims she was there at the beginning and has continued to accompany the evolutionary cosmos over its 13.8 billion year history. As we will see, she has an important role. She is the catalyst of creative union, the one who has been coaxing matter to become more. As Teilhard noticed, creative union is the process that brings simple elements together to make something new, something more. He defines creative union in the following way. When two or more entities cede their sense of individualism, but not their identity, and unite, they are capable of more, of becoming something new. From the very beginning of time, this is the way the creation has progressed. New entities come to be from the union of simpler entities. Protons fuse into helium. Nuclei connect with electrons to form atoms. Atoms come together to form molecules, which make cells that eventually become parts of organisms that make up living things. Each union produces something new and more complex than the elements of which it is made. For instance, water forms from the union of hydrogen and oxygen and is more complex than either. The complexification process of creative union that began almost 14 billion years ago has culminated in the emergence of the human brain that can reflect upon itself. You might have noticed how the principle that Teilhard calls complexity consciousness operates. This principle states that as matter complexifies, it becomes capable of generating and sustaining more developed forms of consciousness. And as matter becomes more conscious, it encourages greater complexity. Each union produces an entity more complex than its parts and more conscious than the elements of which it's made. You can think about a committee, or water, for instance. We were looking at water as more complex than hydrogen and oxygen. And a committee is more complex and hopefully more conscious than a single person, can do much more. And so it's better equipped, the committee is better equipped to perform a more complex task. So as we see in the second part of Sophia's story, her present role of creative union and complexity consciousness. Our reading opens at the beginning of time as Sophia emerges along with the primordial energy of the early universe. She begins by telling us about her mission. As you listen to her speak, try to imagine her playfulness. Notice how deeply she loves the cosmos and how focused she is on her cosmic mission of union, to bring all things into one. And again, as you listen to this part of Sophia's story, be aware of language that touches your heart and notice examples of creative union and complexity consciousness. When we finish listening, you will again have an opportunity to share a word or phrase in the chat, a word that's meaningful to you and one that you wish to share. Okay, so this is the reading. So I would ask Maria Anucci to begin the reading. Unmute your.
From the beginning, even before the universe appeared, I emerged into being. Only half-formed and still elusive, I came forth from the mist, destined to grow in beauty and grace. As soon as the first traces of my presence became apparent, I assumed my mandate to nurture, to unify, to beautify, and ultimately to lead all things back to God. With this mission as guide, I attended to my work of transforming the world, one that was alive with potential. From within the heart of matter, I held together the foundations of the universe. Playing over the surface of the divine fire, I stirred up the cosmic substance and summoned matter to follow my lead. With a promise of worlds beyond number, I advised the primordial force field to separate into its fundamental components: gravity, electromagnetism, and the nuclear forces that throughout the ages continue to be effective facilitators of creative union. Since everything in the universe is made by union, I began by stirring up in each fragment of primeval matter that emerged from the energy ejected from the primordial fireball, a deep desire to hold fast to something outside of itself, to unite with the other, to become something more. To assist me in my task of producing greater complexity, I coded the process of created union into the very fabric of the cosmos and attempted to persuade the protons to come together. From within the raging plasma, I suggested that the swarming protons counter their tendency to repel each other and to instead release the energy stored within them. They eventually came close enough to fuse. A cascade of interactions began as nuclei united with electrons to form atoms, and all sorts of atoms interacted with each other to form molecules. As the early universe continued to expand and cool, I was delighted as I watched the force of gravity gather the cosmic dust and gas into clumps of matter and slowly but surely form the first stars and galaxies. In the core of the newly formed stars, nuclei were again responding to the strong nuclear force and fusing first helium, then more complex nuclei. As those first massive stars reached the end of their life cycle, What thrilled me was to see the way these dying stars so generously shared the products of their labors. These developments hold the promise of ever greater diversity and beauty. The process of creative union is a gradual process and is often beset with failure. Therefore, from within the forms of fragments of matter, I encourage all possible combinations, since I know that not every combination will be productive. Whenever fragments of matter do unite, I tell them to be sure to preserve their identity. And as they come together, I evoke in them new possibilities for creativity, for fruitful interactions, and for further union. Each step towards union drives the cosmos towards greater spontaneity and freedom, towards greater novelty, greater integrity, and ultimately greater consciousness. However, transitions to novel forms often resulted from intense interaction. Unification processes often seem undisciplined and violent. In fact, I sometimes stir up conditions of instability, volatility, and high energy to achieve the kind of atmosphere that makes union possible. This is the price the early universe paid to open itself to new possibilities, to novelty, and to surprise. But I was always there amidst the chaos to help transform the early universe into a cosmos of amazing potential. I am the principle of union, the soul of the world, playing throughout the expanding space-time. I am the magnetic and unitive force that brings disparate matter together and nurtures each newly created form, urging each element to multiply, to beautify, and to bear fruit.
Thank you so much, Maria. And now we'll take time to read through again and find the passages that really touched your heart and write them in the chat, a word or phrase. So Sister Joanne, if you would begin reading the chat as people continue to write in it, I would be grateful. Thank you.
Of course. I am always there amid the chaos. I am the principle of union, the soul of the world. But I was always there. A cosmos of amazing potential. A cosmos of amazing potential. Release the energy stored within them. Dying stars so generously shared the products of their labors. As they come together, I evoke in them new possibilities for creativity, for fruitful interactions, and for further union. I am the magnetic and unitive force that brings disparate matter together and nurtures each newly created form, that urges each element to multiply, to beautify, and to bear fruit. The gifts of energy and consciousness. My mandate to nurture, to unify, and ultimately to lead all things back to God. Unify, transform, facilitators become something more, counter the tendency to repel, preserve their identity, undisciplined and violent, novelty, integrity. I coded the process of creative union into the very fabric of the cosmos to become something more. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Beautiful array of words and phrases. And so for Teilhard rather, Sophia is the creative presence of God in the cosmic becoming, as we just saw and heard, so beautifully read. The one who oversees the project of creative union. She is the lure that keeps the universe headed in the right direction, encouraging the constant creation of something new. Ubiquitous, dynamic, and responsive, she transforms what could have been a rather static universe into a truly dynamic one. As she continues her story, she tells us that although the cosmos is immense, with billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, and many of them with intricate planetary systems, she's particularly fond of planet Earth. She describes its gradual emergence beginning almost 5 billion years ago. Once life appeared, she acquired ever more specialized tasks. Simple cells unite, complexify, learn, and develop new skills.
I've watched her over these years.
What's happening? With the
It-
is there a problem?
No, it's okay. Someone was unmuted, that's all, sorry.
Okay. With the coming of the human, Sophia's mission becomes personal. Finally, she is pleased at last to be recognized. Yet, as we know from chemistry, the work of unification is not easy. From the beginning, protons resisted coming together and creatively until exposed to unbearable heat and pressure. Now humanity often resists her plea for love and mercy. In solidarity with the most vulnerable of creation, with those who yearn for the barest necessities of life, Sophia sits at the city gates, at the crossroads of a world in crisis, attempting to open the eyes of each person to the presence of pain and suffering in the world, begging for mercy. She cries to us from the faces of the poor ones of our world, seeking in their name kindness, empathy, and love. She longs to transform our hearts and to move us to action. She implores us to work for peace, to engage in fruitful dialogue, and to find new ways of connecting with the other. She is hope breaking into history, erupting in the most unexpected places. She is love. Let's listen now to the second part of Sophia's story. And again, as you listen, be aware of the words and phrases that touch your heart. And we'll have a chance to share them again after we're finished the reading. So I would ask John Schaub to begin. Unmute yourself and begin the reading.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I accompanied planet Earth as she emerged from the recycled waste material of an exploded supergiant star. I thrilled from within the fire of her molten lava as we swirled over Earth's surface and formed her rocky crust. I was present in the gases oozing from her surface as they formed her protective atmosphere. I encouraged the waters of her great oceans to separate and allowed dry land to form. I am the beauty still running through this newly born planet, encouraging her to produce novel forms. I am fire. Always searching for more, I was determined to make something new. And suddenly there was life. All at once, the ocean swarmed with one-celled organisms. And the yearning I embedded into the fragments of the early universe continued to be effective. Living creatures spread rapidly over the face of planet Earth. Within their early life forms, I instilled the sexual force to provide new paths to union and to enhance Earth's diversity. I thrilled to see how flowers appear and made God's face more colorful, more vibrant, and more beautiful. I urged the many species of animals to find ways to cooperate. Some are particularly clever at this. Insects divide their food-finding tasks among members of their colony. Birds swarm, moving as a body to avoid their predators. I thrilled to the songs of the birds, to the wild hum of insects, to the tireless blooming of flowers, to the unremitting work of cells, and to the endless labors of seeds germinating in the soil. I am the radiance by which all of this beauty is aroused and within which it is vibrant. With the coming of the human, I began to unveil my face, always ready to promote a richer, deeper, and more spiritualized union. I set about my task of alluring this highly conscious feature of the universe into the elusive web of my charms. I am the fragrance, drawing human persons to interact in new and interesting ways and to follow me freely and passionately along the road to union. I am the source of their affective power, the radiance that rouses human effervescence, the magnetic force of the universe, of the universal presence, and the ceaseless ripple of its smile. Although the gift of human freedom makes my role more difficult at times, humans often assist me in fulfilling my mandate of creative union by conceiving new possibilities. Their creativity brings me great delight. Within the human family, I stir up passionate desire for beauty, for scientific discovery, for compassion toward those in need. My love is a tremendous vital current running through the cosmic landscape. It is the source of the passionate cosmic forces of union woven into the very fabric of the universe, the world's attractive power imprinted on human features. I am love, a wild and daring cosmic love, stronger than the sexual force between lovers, more tender than the nurturing love of a parent, more fruitful than a vineyard in late summer. Embedded within the fibers of this complex web of conscious interaction that surrounds planet Earth, the collective human heart brain that is weaving a web of threadless fibers over planet Earth, I am the golden thread that holds the fabric of human love and knowledge together. I gather together all who care to join me in my mission. What thrills me most is the rich potential that I find among so many members of the human family. Because of their ability to care for one another, to communicate, and to collaborate in highly complex ways, because of their capacity to plan for the future, to imagine outcomes, and to accept a goal greater than themselves, my expectations for creative union are raised to new heights. I continue to draw human family toward the light, to the heights, and into freedom. I now focus my activity on my next major task in the evolutionary process, teaching humanity how to bear the burden of a greater consciousness, how to harness psychic energy, and how to transform the energy of love so that all may be one. I know that the only force capable of providing the energy needed by the human community or union is love. Only love will herald the coming of a more fully conscious form of humanity.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that wonderful reading. And now it's time to write your words and phrases in the chat. And we'll have Teresa read them, or Joanne rather, read them in a minute. So take time to look over that reading. So Sister Joanne, I think you can begin to read the responses in the chat.
I am the golden thread, wild and daring cosmic love. Compassion toward those in need. Transform the energy of love so that all may be one. How to transform the energy of love so that all may be one. I continue to draw the human family toward the light, to the heights, and into freedom. I continue to draw the human family toward the light. I am the fragrance drawing human persons to interact. How to bear the burden of greater consciousness. I am thrilled from within. I am fire. Their creativity brings me great delight. I am the golden thread. I am the beauty still running through. I am the radiance. I am the golden thread. The yearning I embedded into the fragments of the early universe continues to be effective. I am the golden thread that holds the fabric of human love and knowledge together. I am the golden thread that holds the fabric of human knowledge together. Into the elusive web of my charms, complex web of conscious interaction that surrounds planet Earth. We yearn to know how to put aside our own need for self-development and unite with our source. Only love can bring union to the human community. Amen.
Amen, and thank you so much to all who contributed and to Joanne for a wonderful reading. So from within the cosmic landscape, Sophia cultivates a world in process, a world filled with ever greater excitement and activity, and reveals herself to us as the very nature of God. From her privileged vantage point, she gazes lovingly at all those in her field of view, infusing them with vitality, with the appetite for growth, and with a desire for union. As the bond that links us to one another, she abides with us encourages us, and nurtures us with love. Sophia is alive, pulsating with energy, endlessly productive, attentive to our very needs. Unknown and unseen, she draws us away from the alienation and the polarization of self-centered preoccupation into that unified field of divine abundance that can be perceived only through the heart. Descending into ourselves, we sense Sophia at work in the very marrow of our being. When we search for her, we're able to sense her presence, to feel her touch. She stirs our imaginations, guides us on our inward journeys, helps us assemble the disparate parts of our lives so that we can make sense of the whole. With each flash of insight, each loving encounter, she challenges us to live a life of integrity. In response, we long to see as she sees, to work with her on her projects, always hoping that she will be able to fulfill her dreams. Sophia is powerful enough to embrace the whole of reality, yet gentle enough to unify it. Her care and concern extend from the smallest elementary particles to the largest clusters of galaxies, from the most ancient forms of bacteria to each and every person who lives today. Each is precious, each has value. In her presence, the world is no longer ours to exploit. Instead, we become aware of the profound communion that we share with all of nature. Whenever we admire Earth's beauty, whenever we remember Sophia at play in creation, whenever we help to advance her project of creative union, we develop deep respect for all of creation, as well as gratitude for the gifts that are ours. And we can respond more easily to her invitation to develop a sense of companionship with the other, to give ourselves over to Earth's beauty, and to collaborate with her in her ongoing work of creation. To do this enhances our dignity as human persons. So during this evening session, we've prayed with Sophia and played with her. We've journeyed with her through the cosmos. But we still might wonder, who is Sophia? Who is this feminine image of God? Scripture calls her the breath of the power of God, a pure emanation of the glory of the Almighty, a reflection of the eternal light, a spotless mirror of the working of God, and the image of God's goodness, God's wisdom. She is love without blemish and gratitude without self-complacency, the manifestation of the Father's glory and radiant splendor. Teilhard experiences her presence as a divine milieu and as a source of cosmic creativity. Clearly, she is the presence of God poured out in the self-giving love closer to us than we are to ourselves, ever arousing our souls to passion for the divine. And as we know her, as we come to know her, she continues to dazzle us with her presence. She is the aura of God, the feminine face of God, a divine milieu dispersing God's life everywhere. Although this transparency of God in all of creation is difficult to observe, when we are in touch with our own silence, we begin to notice an inner light welling up. In Sophia's presence, we shine with this light, and once again, set aflame. We can more easily respond to her, imitate her, and share our light with others. As we come to know her, we become dazzled by her presence. So I think we can take a couple minutes to contemplate the story And maybe think about this, the question, how does Sophia's intimate presence in the cosmos console you? I would also say, how does it energize you? How does it give you zest for life? And how is Sophia's mission of creative union your mission also? And so take a couple minutes and we'll come back and finish with the prayer and the song. And now I ask Elizabeth Hill to read the prayer that's on the screen. There are 2 pages to the prayer. No, that's not true. There's only 1 page to the prayer.
Okay. Radiant and unfading wisdom, your deep love calls to me. In response, I seek you with all my heart. Hasten to make yourself known to me. Sit at the gate of my heart and teach me your ways. Meet me in every thought. Attune my mind to your perceptions. Deepen all that attracts me to you. I promise to be awake and vigilant, attentive to your voice, receptive to your guidance. Come, dear Sophia, reveal yourself to me. Amen.
Thank you. And I hope this plays now. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Long before the night was born from the darkness, long before the dawn rolled unsteady from fire, long before she wrapped her scarlet arms around the hills, there was a love, this ancient love was born. Long before the grass spotted green the bare hillside, long before a wing unfolded to wind, long before she wrapped her long blue arm around the sea, there was a love, this ancient love was born. Long before a chain was forged from the hillside, long before a voice uttered freedom's cry, long before she wrapped her bleeding arms around a child, there was a love, this ancient love was born. Long before the name of God was spoken, long before a cross was nailed from a tree, long before she laid her arm of colors across the sky, there was a love, this ancient love was born. Wakeful love
So thank you very much for your attention and the beautiful readings that you did this evening.
So, this is the time when Sister Kathy is happy to answer your questions. So if you have any, you can put them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and Matthew can see you, acknowledge you, and then he'll ask you to take off your mute, and then you can ask the question directly yourself, okay? Any questions or comments? Doesn't have to be a question.
There's a few in the Q&A. I didn't look at them, but they're.
You know
Seems
what it is?
okay.
I think somebody wanted to put them in the chat. Their
Okay.
words that went in.
Okay.
That was
Good.
Patrick. We'll have to ask him to use the chat.
Mhm.
It was just I have to say, exquisitely beautiful tonight, peaceful. And for Sisters of St. Joseph, I think, whose mission is about unity of all people with God and people with each other and all of creation. It was just especially beautiful tonight, so I have to thank you.
Thank you.
And Kathleen, once again, your choice of music beyond the beyond, that just so captured it. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yes.
From Marie Andrews, has anyone explored the connection between the unbearable burden of consciousness and mental illness?
Wow.
Do you know that, Kathy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people are trying to understand, the causes of the mental illness, but I'm sure that's part of it, is that it is unbearable. If we want to move ahead, if we want to move into union, we can't expect to sit back and enjoy life and put our feet up all the time. Do you know what I mean? We need time to relax, but we also need to expect to suffer, I think, and to encounter difficulties that we need to struggle with. Struggle maybe is better word than suffering. And so that could be very difficult for people. And I do think we're in a time right now in our world where that's very difficult. And I think it is part of the growing into consciousness. And so I just keep hoping we'll take the challenge and find a way to move past the impasse that we seem to be involved in.
Anyone else comment or a question?
So I'm just anxious to know if you just love Sophia, and if I know for me, she was a real breakthrough into having a sense of God's presence. I see somebody has a hand up here. Who is it?
Maria, I knew Chief Maria. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
I just thought, what a beautiful story to tell children too. I love the simplicity with which you formed Teilhard's words, and I'd love to share that. I just wanted to make a comment.
Thanks. Yeah. And sometimes it's almost funny, like I remember watching a biologist listen to it, and she was chuckling at Sophia encouraging the protons to come together. But there's some truth to it. It is very childlike, and it's very very beautiful. I think too, the story itself. And Spirit Alive, there is one more hand that keeps going up. I don't know who that is.
I think it might be mine.
Good. Well, come
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Well, you just asked it if we loved Sophia, and I guess I think I met her for the first time tonight, and found her just so delightful. The combination of the intimacy and playfulness and joyfulness, and yet the cosmic, the magnitude, the infinitude sort of blew my mind. Trying to bring the two together will take a little time, probably a lot of time. But I want to thank you for introducing me to a new friend. So
I'm always glad to introduce her to others. Thank you for being our friend.
it was gorgeous. Thank you. Really beautiful.
I think Joseph has his hand up. I don't know
So.
if you have another question, or you the same one that's in the box, Joseph. But please unmute and ask. Joseph wrote in the box, sister, the complex. Joseph, are you there?
I am here, but I don't know how to unmute.
Well,
you're unmuted
now.
Oh,
just speak.
okay. Okay. Well, one thought that really hit me was in the reading, the complex web of interaction that surrounds planet Earth. Wow, this must include all the negativity, anger, revenge that is being expressed by the politicians now. And how do I understand this? Is this part of the price we pay? That was in the earlier part of the reading. I don't know. Do you have a sense of what I'm getting at?
I understand what you're asking, and I think it's right on target. And it's to me, it's the biggest challenge, being able to talk to the other who is absolutely the other. It seems that we have nothing in common. And unless we can bridge that gap, and it's really going to be difficult. If you're Richard Rohr fans, I think this morning he said, "Don't forget, we have to live with these people after the election is over." So how can we begin to build bridges, which is so much part, as you were saying, Maria, of our spirituality as Sisters of St. Joseph. We say that, and then I think, well, we've really took on a big mission, because that's not easy. And it is the movement into greater consciousness. So I don't have any prescription for it. I wish I were better at it myself, but I do think that's the next challenge. If we can't get over that, it's going to be very difficult to make any progress. So thanks, Joseph.
I'm thinking also of M. Scott Peck's book, People of the Lie. And it just feels so risky. It feels so frightening. And it just calls me into trust. And a friend of mine told me one time, well, most of the bad stuff that you're afraid of hasn't happened yet, and maybe it won't. And so why destroy your day today, your happiness today, and the good you can do today by being overwhelmed by the fear of what might happen? That helps me somewhat.
Right. And I think what helps me is watching Sophia work through all of that. I mean, whether, whatever image we use. And next week we'll be looking at the Christic, and we'll get another image of how God's energy pervades our cosmos. But like, we're not alone, and we have somebody, we have Sophia batting for us, really trying, not just to help me, but to help everybody else, to break down a little bit so that we can come together. So I think without those images, I don't even know I mean, some kind, and remembering their images. This is our best way of talking about God. But without those images, I just keep wondering how we can possibly move ahead, without being devastated, feeling devastated. But if we believe that this kind of movement is really true, it really helps.
Mhm. In the chat box, someone made a comment. This kind of musing on creation can fuse all fragments of spirituality together in one. Bind all human wounds, from the least to the greatest. We become leveled on the earth and cosmos. Thank you for your warm, loving style of presenting.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. That's what I need. It's like things coming together so that there's a single, something, not disparate, not, like science and religion and this and that and the other thing. But there's a way in which, the story brings in the science without, without watering it down too much. I mean, of course, we have to do that a little bit, but it's real science, and to see what we can call Sophia a scientist. I mean, she's really helping to catalyst. I mean, she's working in the chemistry lab and trying to get us moving. So, and if we have that image, if we can somehow see that happening, then we can see that there's a way forward. There's someone drawing us into the future, the cosmic Christ, which we'll talk about again next week. So,
And Kathleen, I think it's important because by the time we come back next week, we will have voted in this election. And I think you have, I mean, I have loved Sophia for a long time, to be honest. But I think it's important to hold on to these images that Teilhard has put forth for us. It's so easy to get, down, depressed, whatever. But I think, there little fires, are starting all over in terms of hope and, connection. And yeah, let's just, keep that flame going.
That's right. Jump on the hope wherever we can find it, right? Wherever we can come together. I think that for Teilhard, that's it. It's coming together in groups and trying to work through. And the thing is, if you have little groups, that's good. That's good. It might not be totally effective, but when the time comes, sometimes those little groups come together and can really make a very big difference. And so, we need to always be alert to see. I mean, Teilhard always talks about see what's going on. Where can I be most effective with my gifts? Everybody has different gifts. And so we continue to bring those together, but to bring them together is important.
I think we see the hand of Patrick Madden, who hasn't spoken yet. Patrick, if you're unmuted, you want to?
Okay. For me, the greatest struggle, in contrast to the biblical worldview, which the world is 6,000 years old, and we were made on the sixth day, and we've been here for 99% of the time, and the world is small, and it's easy to imagine that we're the focus of it all. For me, the greatest struggle is to accept that the God of these billions and billions of galaxies even knows that our Milky Way exists, let alone the yellow dwarf star we call our sun, let alone the life that's on what Carl Sagan called the pale blue dot. When Voyager was leaving the solar system. They turned it around and took a picture of the Earth. It's a pale blue dot. Everything that has ever been in human history is on that pale blue dot. And to me, the struggle is to think that Sophia, God, mystery, whatever we want to call it, even knows that we're here, let alone cares about us. That's the hard part.
Yeah, so God is really, I mean, universalized, you know. I mean, we'll talk about that, as I said, next week. That, you know, God is everywhere, and God is infinite. I mean, the infinity of the you know, immensity of everything, and how can we image that, you know? So as I say, we'll do that again. But
I'll be here next week. Yeah,
good.
I'll look forward to that. Thank you, sister.
You're welcome,
Thank you,
Patrick.
Patrick.
Thank you for your
Well,
question.
sister, it's Sister Kathy, it's time to wrap up, I think, unless I don't see anything else in the chat room. So thank you again. Next week, as it was just pointed out, we'll be back on election night, and God willing, this week, some of the unity and the love that you have been talking about will begin to penetrate the world in which we live. And if not our own world, certainly, especially the Middle East, where women, children, so many people are dying every day under the relentless bombing and the lex talionis, which Jesus came to overturn. So pray for peace in the world and
Pray for
in
this
each of
week.
our own hearts tonight. Thanks, Sister Kathy. See you next
Thank
week.
you so much, Marin. Thank you for everybody for coming and for
Thank you.
participating so well. I love the way you read it tonight. It was really beautiful.
Thank you. God bless everybody. Good night now.
Good night.